All right, we're tracking this breaking legal story for you today on this Thursday. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled it's not going to hear a last-ditch appeal from an ostrich farm in British Columbia to save the birds. The farm had already lost two previous legal challenges. It's been 10 months since this story began. Here's what happened. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, ordered a cull of the birds because of an outbreak of the bird flu and worries that it would spread. It seemed an open and shut case, but the farm was not happy. The Supreme Court did delay the cull back in September. While it considered whether or not to hear the case, it has said, no, we're not going to do that. So now there's no legal barrier against the culling of more than 300 ostriches. Let's bring in bioethicist Kerry Bowman, who's following this story for us today. Kerry, good to see you. Thanks for your time.
You too, Todd.
Your reaction to this story and the decision by the Supreme Court, Kerry?
I'm not surprised. I mean, this whole thing has been a masterclass in how not to handle conflict. It's really gotten out of control. And there's so much tension in all of this at this point. Very problematic. It would be great if there was some middle way. And, some people laugh at this and say, look, it's just a bunch of birds. Who cares? Others see it as a violation. But what a lot of Canadians now see is they see it as government overreach. They see it as something that should never have happened. And, I actually think it's got the political and social implications are very serious. And not to mention the animal welfare issues. But, allowing this conflict to get this deeply entrenched, I think is very damaging to the whole country, and it's not over yet. As most of us know, the Americans have been involved, RFK Jr., Mahatma Oz, Dr. Oz. So very problematic. And I wish there was some third way where these birds could go somewhere where they would be, not just well taken care of, but very confined. But it looks like that is no longer a possibility, and that's definitely not going to happen at this point. So, yeah, tough situation, and it really has gotten much more out of control than it needed to.
If there are worries about bird flu, though, Kerry, I'm just curious, should we trust the science, trust the experts, trust the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to do what they're doing and do the right thing, or should there be this level of skepticism?
Yeah, so in terms of the science, I'm not a virologist, but when people say that these birds have, unique antibodies, my colleagues tell me there's really no evidence to support that whatsoever. So, as a blunt instrument, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency going in to cull them on the surface of it, this is what they do. But when you step back from this a little bit and you think of, first of all, there's bird flu all around us. I mean, God knows what species in our own backyard are carrying bird flu. It is really entrenched all over the world. I was recently in South America, and seeing the deaths from bird flu is staggering. So it's not as if this is a new outbreak. We've got industrialized farming. We've got massive amounts of poultry that suffer and die in very difficult conditions. And we're not looking really at what actually caused this in the first place. Not the outbreak itself, but the factors that lead to outbreaks. So there's something duplicitous about this as well. But no, I do trust the science, but, the question is it overreach? Is there not a third way to move forward? Because as I said, and I purposely repeat myself here, I think the political damage and the social damage is far greater than we're estimating. I think it's big.
And then you also have critics of the farm itself and their supporters who say, oh, these people are, kooks and nut jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people can be very dismissive. But it also shows how divided our country is. It's not just the United States, how divided our country is. And this is so divided, it's so pulled in now to U.S. politics. And, the Make America Great Again movement and things we wouldn't have thought would be occurring in Canada, but they definitely are. I really think we underestimated the price of this conflict, and it's very destructive.
Kerry Bowman, ethicist, with his take on this story. Thanks for this, Kerry.
Welcome.